Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Rustbelt Report here on the Buffalo fan base. If you don't know me already, my name is Ryan Coghill, and I'm going to be your host. Last time I checked, there was a man named Justus General in here. He's not anymore. Hopefully, we'll get him back here in a sec. There he goes. There he is. There he is.
I want you to get your moment, bro. This is your inaugural show. You know what I'm saying?
I do appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. But speaking of, there are some thanks I have to give. First off, to you, Justus, for literally a bucket of things. I don't know where to start. If it wasn't for I don't want to call it an ill-fated conversation, but it was an off-the-cuff Twitter response that ended up to a really good text conversation between you and I. And for the last 6 or 7 months now, we've been working on this thing at other places and now here at Buffalo fan base. So I want to thank you for that, for tweeting what you did that morning, not knowing what fruit it was going to bore. I do want to thank you for that. I'm going to shut my window here because I am one of, Justus and I are one of a few podcasters or Buffalo podcasters that live in Buffalo. And I happen to live off of Delaware Avenue. And so it's very loud right now because it's still only 8:00 at night. It feels like 11.
Be out soon.
Yeah, right. And so I want to thank you for that. But the intro that you guys just saw, outside of saying, I want the instrumental to Biggie's Hypnotize, Justus did the entire thing. And he was like, I'm not even going to do it. Like, it's just, it takes a couple of days to do a really good one. And then all of a sudden he was like, yeah, I'm going to work on a little bit today. And I was like, hey, we have this guest who's coming on. And you were like, all right, this is what I'm doing for the rest of the day. And you literally worked on it. And you were telling me this before we went live. You worked on it so much today that you passed out, like not like medically, like you went to bed afterwards because you had to take a nap. Unfortunately, our guest won't be able to make it today. They will be on next week's episode of the Rustbelt Report, which, if you are watching and intending on becoming a fan, is every Thursday here on the Buffalo fan base. But we'll talk about who that is in a couple of minutes. But thank you for putting that together. It's amazing. I don't know if you could see my face, but I mean, I was literally speechless. Like, my hand was covered in my mouth, and I'm like, and you're like, oh, nah, man, I'll fix it up for next week. And I'm like, it's perfect. Don't touch it.
Look, man.
So thank you for all of that.
Of course, man. I'm super, man. Like, sometimes something just happens and you never know how it can impact your life, but I'm super proud and happy that we had that off the cuff conversation, and it's turned into a real brotherhood and a really great partnership. And look, man, I'm excited to work with you. Trust me, this is mutually beneficial because you're awesome. So I appreciate you having me on your debut episode, man. This is awesome.
Well, no, thank you very much. A little bit of a backstory. The Rustbelt Report, this is not the first ever episode. So this was actually the first podcast I ever had that I retired. I was like, I can't do it anymore. I'm not going to bring it back. But the entire premise of it was basically to just bring on different people. And so some of the first original episodes have, you can't not have a first episode without shouting some people out. But like Jay Spence the King and Joe Miller from Buffalo Rumblings were on. I think I had a couple others on. But they were like the first guys that came on, and they're good friends of mine. And Jay Spence especially has been kind of like a mentor to me in the podcasting realm. But just to finish up my thank yous, thank you to the Buffalo fan base. Thank you to Dell, to Robin, to 26 Shirts, then I guess by extension of Dell, Mookie Mookie Hawkins for helping set all of this up. Jake Jordan and Caveman, who, if you guys don't know them yet, you'll get to know them with other shows and on this show. And if you don't know me, I have my own brand, LDG on Spotify, or LDG Sports and Entertainment, at LDG on Spotify, on Twitter. and in you three, you included, have all offered to help me with that. We have some great talent on there too, some Bills content creators that we're going to talk about, maybe moving over to here a little bit, get them in with the fan base, because those are some great guys. That's the Goated Mafia Report and the Red, White, and Bills podcast, which again, just I can't get over. It's such a great name.
Names. Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I thought the Rustbelt Report was cool, and then Goated Mafia Report and Red, White, and Bills came out, and I was like, oh man. So I guess to all of you, happy St. Patrick's Day. It is St. Patrick's Day. I'm wearing my Sabres St. Patrick's Day. I am representing the Buffalo Fire Department here with my shirts. I'm not a Buffalo firefighter, but representing Buffalo Fire as well. I'm gonna try and get out, and there you go. And there goes Justus with the Allentown number 17. I like it. I'm gonna try and get out for the St. Patrick's Day parade this weekend, and then if not, Dingus Day is coming up. So if you're missing one, you got to go to the other. But we have a lot to
slap some people with Pussy Willow.
Yeah. yeah. Or get slapped with it, which I don't know. I think some places have substituted those for like squirt guns. But yeah, so a lot to talk about tonight. We're talking specifically about Buffalo Bills free agency, and boy, was it a good free agency. Have no idea if it's over yet. I know that Coach McDermott spoke today. I know that General Manager Brandon Beane is potentially speaking right now, and it's because of that our guest couldn't be here because interviews were running late. And so for those of you who were not in the know, we were supposed to be joined by Matt Perino tonight. If you don't know Matt, then you're living under a rock. I could understand if you don't know who I am, or Justus. I mean, everybody knows Justus now, but not knowing me, totally get that. But if you're a Bills fan, you don't know Matt Perino.
You have to know Matt Perino.
You have to know Matt Perino. Matt Perino and Ryan Talbot are a great duo, and they're great on their own. But Matt was, I had asked him at the last second, kind of earlier today, to join us. He jumped right on and said yes. But unfortunately, because of the delays at One Bills Drive, he's not able to join us this week. He did say he will join us next week. So next Thursday at 7 p.m., that's when we're supposed to be doing this, at 7 p.m., we'll have Matt Perino on the Rustbelt Report. In the meantime, though, we do have bigger news to talk about. The Buffalo Bills, and if I accidentally say Buffalo Sabres, just call me out on it, because the Sabres are good. We have two good sports teams kind of at the same time. One is up and coming. They are playing tonight in just about an hour or so here. They're out west. We're playing Edmonton tonight, so I may accidentally say Sabres. I'm sorry. But the Buffalo Bills, who I thought, when we lost out on Chandler Jones, and I don't know if this is the same feeling that you had when we lost out on Chandler Jones, I was like, that's it. We're done in free agency. There's not going to be any bigger splashes. Now we know that that's A, not true, and B, even though the coach and GM are talking tonight, we also know from reports from Ryan Talbot that and I see that our first comments are coming in here. Thank you guys. We'll address those in a minute. That Ryan Talbot reported that we are reportedly pursuing other talent, specifically at linebacker. So we'll get into that a little bit. But, I mean, the big story is, and we got to jump off with this. So, Jason, we will get to you. I promise you, your comment is literally on my list. I'll get to it here in a couple of minutes. But the Buffalo Bills got Von Miller. Generational pass rush talent, two-time Super Bowl champion Von Miller. I don't know if my dad's watching. If he is, Dad, I suggest that you mute this right now or turn the volume off, do whatever it is that you're going to do. But I may or may not have purchased a Von Miller jersey tonight. I may or may not.
I think he should understand that one. That's understandable.
I think he understands that. After the trade yesterday, I visited him at work, and he goes, as soon as I was going to come out here and just tell you don't do it right off the bat, because I knew you were going to do it. So no, I think that's understandable. And I think, the Sabres, return to the goat head is understandable, because that's, one of my favorite Sabres jerseys. But we got Von Miller. We also lost out on some players, some big name players like Harrison Phillips, which we'll get to here in a second. But Justus, like I said, my feeling was we lost out on Chandler Jones, and it's like, oh man, we're done. Like, we're not making that big free agency splash. We not only get Von Miller, but we also sign OJ Howard. Then Ryan Talbot also reports, was the first report. We're also bringing back Jordan Phillips, and now we know today, after all those guys have signed and talked, Shaq Lawson is now back in the 716 as well. So I'm gonna turn it back over to you, and I'm gonna shut up here for a second. But your thoughts on Von Miller?
I mean, so when we lost out on Chandler Jones, I have to admit, I was like, all right, we're not going to get a quote unquote dominant guy, but there's still some pretty decent talent out there. Carl Nassib just got cut. There's guys out there. Jadeveon Clowney could be serviceable, a guy who could come in and has elite traits and, could, improve our defensive line. I just thought it was kind of like a foregone conclusion that, Von was going to be in Denver because he was, going at it so heavily. And when I remember I was driving I was in the car with my mom. She was driving. We were on the way to Applebee's, and I'm just like, I'm literally on Twitter telling people, look, guys, we were one of, if not the best team in the NFL last year. Yeah. We have one of, if not the most talented quarterbacks of all time on our team. It takes a little luck to win the championship, but we'll be fine. Like we still are contenders. Like, this is ridiculous. People are pouting and upset and stuff, and I get it, but we're still going to be a good team. This is still a team to be confident in. And what do you know? I'm managing my mentions, and all of a sudden, I put my phone down. I look over, Von Miller, 6 years, $120 million. I'm like, get the hell out of here. Like, are you serious right now? And I really couldn't believe it. And I'm like screaming. And then right across the board, as soon as I see that, OJ Howard, and I'm just like, yo, what is happening? And I just like, I don't know. There was, first of all, this is top 2 biggest free agent signings that we've most certainly seen in our lifetimes. Maybe sure. Possibly in Bills franchise history, right? And this one means a little bit more because this is going to help us win the Super Bowl as opposed to just helping us make the playoffs, which didn't even happen in the first place. But so, and then you get a really good second tight end who's probably could be some team's first tight end. All that in the same 30 seconds for me, at least when I saw everything, was just kind of crazy. And I'm just like, wow, like that's nuts. And I couldn't believe it. But yeah, man, it's really something special. Definitely something special. By the way, everybody, please hit the like and the thumbs up for my man right here, Ryan, in his first show. So please definitely do that.
I appreciate that. So as I'm recounting this, guys, also please drop in the comments, where were you when you found out that that Von Miller was coming to Buffalo? So a couple of things. One, I mean, I was sitting literally in this position, right? I think they signed him around probably like 5:30, 6 o'clock. I was going, I'm going to my mom's. Like I said, I live in the city, so I'm leaving the city. I'm going out to the suburbs. I'm gonna go visit my mom's and have dinner. And so I was like, I'm gonna take some time. I'm working on something for work. I'm rolling, so I'm gonna keep working on it and whatever. And I got my phone here, and I'm playing, taking a little break, and I'm playing a game, and a game I said I wouldn't re-download again because it was too addicting. I did it anyways. So I'm sitting here, I'm playing the game. I got, it's connected to my Alexa. I'm playing music. I think I was playing Benny the Butcher's Tana Talk 4, which just came out. And because we were just talking about, Benny right before.
Yeah.
right before we hit the live. And the NFL, I shut it off, and the NFL logo pops up from the NFL app, and it just goes, it says Von Miller, and I just go, Von Miller signed with whoever. And my eye just went, so I jumped immediately to the bottom of it to see who. And so all I saw originally was Von Miller Bills. And I went,
yes.
So I'm sitting here, and after that, then I'm like, yeah, let's go. I'm like, we're winning a Super Bowl. And Andrew Smith says that he almost drove off the road. I probably would have done the same thing too. But Andrew, why are you on your phone? Why are you on your phone driving the car? Don't be on your phone driving the car unless you're going through Benny's Tana Talk 4, or unless you are my man Justus here and you're trying to get to Flood the Block on Pyrex Picasso because he hasn't heard it yet.
That was the name. I was just trying to think of the name of the song.
Hands down, one of my favorite songs. But no, all kidding aside, I'm sitting right here. That's the reaction that I had. The two biggest things today, from today about Von Miller that I think are really indicting, but in a good way. One is from earlier in the day, one from a little bit more recent, but Von Miller said the plan was to go back. Like you said, he was kind of, it seemed like he was going to go to Denver, but he basically said in his press conference today, and I don't know if you watched it at all or had a chance to, but he basically saying the plan was to go back to LA. They were going to run it back, right? They just won the Super Bowl. Did you see this at all?
I didn't get a chance to see the entire thing.
So he basically said the plan was to go back to LA. We were going to run it back. We just won a Super Bowl. And he goes, it was going to take a really special place to pull me away from that, for it to be more than just like the money, essentially. And he goes, Buffalo was the only place. And I'm like, oh, Von Miller. Von Miller just went Buffalo. He basically going as he was heading into free agency, going, the only place that's going to pull me away from Los Angeles and the team that just won a Super Bowl is the Buffalo Bills.
Never hear this in the past.
And then something else for as we go, forward in our lives here. Me, I'm always trying to catch the Pat McAfee show. Shout out to Pat McAfee. And he had Ian Rappaport on, and Ian said, he goes, obviously Denver was in the discussion. He goes, obviously LA's in the discussion. I think he had mentioned one other team as being in the discussion. And he goes, and then there was a mystery team, and he goes, nobody would tell me who it is. That's a literal quote. Nobody would tell me who it is. And he goes, what I've learned is that Buffalo is always the mystery team.
I saw that, yeah.
So anytime that we're talking, that you're listening to like a big free agent or like a trade, and it's like there's a mystery team involved, Ian Rappaport's saying it's Buffalo. He's like, it makes my job a lot harder, but it's more fun because I have to actually like investigate to figure it out. But he goes, it's almost always Buffalo. Which is amazing to hear in and of itself. But I mean, I'm very excited for Von Miller. It's not, people were talking on the timeline literally out just, minutes leading up to the announcement of the signing for, like you had said, $120 million over 6 years, which in reality is going to be like, I think I figured it out. It's going to be like $52.5 million over 3, assuming that he's only here for 3 years. Because it's backloaded to the other end. And at that point, we'll have like 3 or 4 Super Bowls. So no big deal. But knock on wood. I'm not trying to jinx it for the entirety of
speak that into existence.
But yeah, so we have Von Miller, but people were talking about like, oh, we don't really get guys who, they say that Buffalo is a free agent destination, but we don't get those big name guys. And then Von Miller signs, and then OJ Howard signs, and then Jordan Phillips is coming back, and then Shaq Lawson's coming back, and it's like, I know that some of those guys aren't big time names, but like you said, anybody that really pays attention to NFL football knows that OJ Howard was TE1 in Tampa until they brought Brady arrived. He brings Gronk back in, or he brings Gronk with him to Tampa. Obviously, then OJ Howard is out with was it the Achilles sprain? So he's out for like 2 years basically, and now he's back and he's healthy. So. But that is like a bigger name. It's not as big as Von Miller, I'm not going to say, but like it's a big name. So Von Miller, number 40 for the Buffalo Bills. I have the event special, $119 on the NFL shop. It's already up there. Hopefully, unlike last time, it took me the last time I did one of these special event jerseys, dude, it took almost 7 months for it to come in. And that was the Greg Rousseau,
you told me about
round pick. Yeah. I literally ordered it before, joining with you and then doing podcasting. And then I got it after the fact. Like it took almost half a year for it to get to me. So it was a ridiculous amount of time. But you know the saying, for every door that opens, there's another door that closes. Harrison Phillips did not return to the Bills. And I think probably the most surprising, I didn't really hear anybody talking about, like, even, I don't even think that, at least I didn't hear whispers of him not returning to Buffalo, right? He sat Star Lotulelei midway through the year this year as the primary run defense guy. Him and Ed Oliver looked really good together. And then it's Harrison Phillips is signing with Minnesota, which I think he's a fantastic fit for Minnesota. I wouldn't have, if he was going to go to a team, Minnesota's that team, right? But yeah, man, it does kind of hurt to lose Harrison Phillips, but also it kind of doesn't. I'm gonna turn it over to you for your thoughts and your take on it. But then I have an issue with how things were worded in his goodbye that I want to kind of tackle, but I want to turn it over to you to talk about losing Harrison Phillips to the Vikings.
Well, I mean, naturally, I like Harrison Phillips. Strong man at the combine. He was
Yeah.
Mr. Buffalo. I loved Harrison Phillips. I wanted him back. Absolutely did. With that being said, yeah, there were some issues with the defensive line last year, and although I feel like he maybe was a band-aid that slapped on them from time to time, I don't feel like he was like necessarily a game changer. I think that he was a good talent who I would love to have back and continue to develop, and to the point where he could potentially become a game changer, but he still had a little ways to go. But I did love his potential. I loved his talent. I loved his size and his everything that came with him, his mindset, approaching the game. So I was excited about that. As far as like, will I miss him? Not necessarily, because now, we got like 3 or 4 big beefy guys that just came in. We got both of our guys, Shaq Lawson and Jordan Phillips back. Settle and Daquan Jones, they're big guys, and I feel like we have like a reinvigorated defensive line. Like, this is a completely new face. You know what I mean? Like, just a couple of days ago, it was like, oh, we have Greg Rousseau, Boogie Basham, AJ Epinesa, Ed Oliver, and Mike Love, and that's it. Now we have all these names and all these guys that can come in and make an impact. It's kind of crazy. I think that they'll I'm really hopeful that these guys will step up in a way that allows our defense to be great, because we know our secondary is good. We know that Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott are going to put those guys in a position to succeed. So if our defensive line can do their job, fill the gaps, etc., our linebackers are easily able to travel the field a little better, to see in the backfield a little better, to shoot gaps a little better, which in turn helps our safeties and our cornerbacks. It's all complementary football, and I think it starts in the trenches. So to revamp the trenches and get an entire new look in there, I'm really excited to see what this team can bring, because I say it all the time. If Von Miller's on this team last year, we won the Super Bowl, just because of the simple fact that you have to allocate some type of assets over there to help block him, right? Which means it's other opportunities are there for other guys to get to the passer. So I look at this now and I say, all right, well, you gotta you good luck if you are single coverage in Von Miller, and if you are you doubling them, then good luck single coverage in Ed Oliver, and hopefully you will hope that AJ Epinesa or Greg Rousseau can get by their guy, don't have to can beat their guys one-on-one. So again, I'm super excited. I love Harrison Phillips, but I'm also very comfortable in the path in which Brandon Beane went with this roster.
Right. Well, dude, I mean, the self-awareness that Von Miller has, because he said that in his presser today too. He talked about how one of his other things was he didn't want to come to a place where he was going to be that guy. And so he spoke very highly specifically of Ed Oliver, because he's like, if I can have somebody that distracts them on the inside and I can get on the outside, He's like, that's it. That's game all day, pretty much.
I love that. I love that.
But speaking of the resetting of those trenches a little bit, we bring back Jordan Phillips, who, I mean, like, literally Jordan Phillips is camped outside the stadium waiting to get cut by Arizona to just pop up then inside the facilities and be like, I'm here, sign me. But then we also bring in Tim Settle, who, bro, first off, I like Tim Settle. I've liked him as a player. I mean,
his energy is infectious.
Oh, it's insane. But I follow, like, I pick a couple NFL teams every now and then, and I follow them. I've been following Washington for like 2 years now. And he's a fantastic player. He was just like 4th or 5th in a position group that was absolutely stacked in Washington.
Young,
which is
sweat,
which is a good problem to have. But I mean, if you're gonna be, good, and Tim Settle is good, I'd say he's above average. But he also has the benefit of having been a college teammate of Tremaine Edmonds, who is still on the Buffalo Bills, much to some Bills fans, wants or not wants, I guess, how you view it. But you bring in Jordan Phillips, you bring in Tim Settle. I'm very excited to see Tim Settle, because this is not like, he's a young guy who you're getting, not for free, but you're not giving up any asset. Like, you're not giving up players, you're not giving up draft picks. You're signing him to a rather cheap contract. He has history with one of the other guys on your team on the same side of the ball. And then you bring him in to replace a guy who was, universally loved. I mean, Harrison Phillips was, he was Poncho's pick, right? Like, he was a big, important guy on this team.
He was our Walter Payton Man of the Year candidate.
Yeah, like literally every year since.
And
he even said that he's keeping his charities here. So,
awesome.
Good on Phillips for that. But you bring back Jordan Phillips, and then you bring in Tim Settle. I'm extremely happy to have both of those guys in there, because Jordan Phillips is like the one guy that I can say in the entire time that we've had this front office, where I've gone, maybe not the entire time, but like, he's really the one guy. Like, like, obviously you could be like, oh, I want the Wyatt Teller trade back, like, because he developed into a pretty good guy, or a pretty good player.
There was no way we could have known that was coming.
But like,
and it's not to say that he would have been a good player if he would have stayed in Buffalo.
Exactly. So I'm not saying, but it's a different level when it came to Jordan Phillips. It was a different level. And for 2 years, some people in the fan base were just like, oh, it was money. And that's why he went elsewhere. And he said today it wasn't. That's not what it was.
It wasn't. I mean, he got paid 3 years, $30 million, which we absolutely were not giving him. Him and Shaq got actually identical, contracts, and we weren't giving either of those guys that. So what was it?
He just said, he basically boiled it down to, he was just kind of chasing happiness at the time, and he didn't really realize what he was around here in Buffalo. And he goes, it's literally one of those moments of like, and he goes, this is no disrespect to Arizona. He goes, Arizona's a fantastic organization. He loved his time here, but he goes, basically, you don't know what you have till it's gone. Absolutely. And he's like, I left Buffalo, and he's like, I spent 2 years wanting to come back. Like, can you imagine that, dude? Like, as awesome as the Von Miller signing is, to know that a guy like Von Miller was like, Buffalo is going to pull me away from Los Angeles. This dude voluntarily left the team, him and Shaq Lawson, and they both went with other teams while playing for other teams, trying to get them to win Super Bowls. Was like, I wish I was back in Buffalo.
Yeah.
But they weren't in bad situations though, right? Like you said, like
neither of them were.
They both got paid immensely well. Obviously,
and went
Jordan was on better
semi-playoff teams.
Yeah, Shaq not so much with the Jets, but
I meant the Dolphins, but that's what I was talking about.
But yes, It just so he just basically said, you don't know what you got till it's gone, and he basically spent 2 years wanting to come back. He said he watched every single game, and and McDermott confirmed. He goes, yeah, the first thing he said when he came in was, I've watched every game for the last 2 years. So like, and then McDermott said during his presser, he goes, NFL players watch other games, but this is a guy who left the team voluntarily, still watched the team's games for 2 years that he left and wanted to come back. Like, it just speaks a whole other level to what it is that's happening here. But as you alluded, I don't want to stick on this for too long, but as you alluded to, bringing in somebody like Settle, who's young, is new blood. Washington hasn't been that bad of a team the last 2 years. So bringing in somebody that has that experience is really important. Then bringing back Jordan Phillips, who again is the one guy that I was like, dude, if I could bring him back, here's a $5 bill, Brandon Bean. Go bring him back. This is all I'm giving you, but go bring him back. So, I'm really excited about that.
So, what did Harrison Phillips say in his farewell message that like rubbed you the wrong way?
Oh yeah. So let me go see if I can find it. He basically alluded to the fact that he felt like Buffalo didn't value him, and he left because he was offered more money. So like, it feels very much like it was a money move, which I get, but you don't expect Harrison Phillips to go, I'm leaving Buffalo for the money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in his second paragraph, he said, when free agency was getting down to the wire, there was a moment where there were multiple teams that placed a higher value on who I am as a player than Buffalo. And that going back wasn't logical, which I get. But it's that part where there was a moment where multiple teams placed a higher value on who I am as a player than Buffalo. And I get it for a guy who, like, if you're a free agent from another team and Buffalo sent you a low offer, to be like, Buffalo clearly doesn't value who I am. But like, to A, be who Harrison Phillips is, and B, to have been drafted by this organization, know how this organization operates, and know what we're trying to go to. I get getting paid, but you're the last 2 years, you're only a handful of games. Like, literally 2 years ago, you're a game away from the Super Bowl, and you say other teams placed a higher value on who I am as a player than Buffalo did. Speaking, I'm a bit about money.
Yeah, that's not true. You
know what I mean? Like, because he's basically saying Buffalo doesn't value who I am, and that's obviously not true.
Right.
So that rubs me the wrong way.
I was just gonna say, if you're absolutely, you're right. What you alluded to, you've been in this organization basically since the conception of this, current regime. So you know how they operate. You know how this works. You got guys like Matt Milano, who, that doesn't mean that we value Matt Milano less than other teams. No, like, we have a lot of good players that we need to pay. Do you think Buffalo values Josh Allen less than the Chiefs value Patrick Mahomes? No, it's just Patrick Mahomes got a ridiculous contract and Josh Allen helped us out a little bit. Do you think that Tre'Davious White is valued less than those top guys like Jalen Ramsey and those guys who get paid no more? No, we just have things that we need to do. Like, we have a lot of guys that need to get paid. Like, so to say that people value you more, maybe they were willing to give up more money, but you have to understand, it's kind of like that saying where it's like, you have a girl who will go to a guy that'll give them $1,000, even though he's rich, and can afford to give her more, versus a guy who will give you his last $100 because that's all he got, but even though it's not that, we're blessed to have a wealth of good football players, but we don't have a ton of money to give away. You know what I mean? No. Because we have a wealth of good football players. So, like, I mean, if you want to go elsewhere to get your bag, I'm never going to tell a man to not go get his bag. Go get your bag, bro. But to say that we valued you less seems a little unfair, because that it's not true. Like, I highly doubt the Minnesota Vikings value you better than the team that spent the last 4 years with you, helped you develop into the football player you currently are. So I have to disagree with that as well.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't know. I mean, part of me wants to say, like, not even part of me, like, I want to say, like, it's just the way that it's worded. But there's no, like, you've kind of built two walls around yourself and you're walking in a straight line. You know what I mean? Like, there's no, oh, I actually meant to go through this door instead of this door. Like, you're saying Buffalo didn't offer you the money that you thought you were worth, so you left. So we don't value you, which is fine. Feel that way. But that's clearly not the case. You spent most of your, what was it? It was his rookie year injured, or his second year injured.
Yeah, yep. It was the second year.
Yeah, so you came in, so you didn't really perform your first year. You were injured for the majority of your second year, which is fine. You can't control that. I mean, the team was extremely supportive of you. The fan base was extremely supportive of you. You were the Walter Payton Man of the Year from, I think, his rookie year on through. It might not have been, I'm forgetting when his rookie year is. It might have been Lorenzo Alexander still. I think it was. But pretty much he's been, the last 2 or 3 years, he's been the Walter Payton Man of the Year candidate for the Bills. Extremely active in the community. He's keeping his charities here, like I had mentioned before, which is great and fantastic. But it's to word it the way you did, which is to say that Buffalo doesn't value you, it's
just a misrepresentation. It really is a misrepresentation. Like, you gotta understand that if they're, and I fear, like, I don't wish this on anybody, but I fear he might find himself in a Jordan Phillips situation.
I was literally just about to say that. You're gonna go to Minnesota and you're gonna play there for whatever the deal was. What is it, like 3 years, something like that?
Yeah.
You're
Brand new head coach. Like, they're hemorrhaging players at this point. You know what I mean?
Kirk Cousins as your quarterback.
Like, you're going to see the difference, and you're going to see the difference in culture. You're going to see what a winner looks like versus what a mediocre team looks like. And you're going to be like, wow, I did all this because I wasn't necessarily willing to sacrifice maybe like $5 to $7 million, which, again, get your money, bro. But like, again, you're going to see, like, okay, maybe that wasn't worth it,
Yeah, you get a lot more money with a Super Bowl ring.
100%. You actually get game checks. You get game checks for playoff wins and Super Bowl wins. You're not seeing game checks for playoff wins with the Vikings, so you're automatically losing money on that front right there. So
guaranteed. So, all right, we're gonna go to Jason's question now. So, Jason, I hope that you're still here. I'm sorry it took so long to get to it, but we're gonna talk about the Bills' run game, because I don't know if you saw what I tweeted out, what I posted on Facebook, because I know I got you on all my stuff, but
yeah, I'm never on Facebook, so no.
all right, because I got things to say. About the Bills' run game, but so quick kind of rundown. We're not going to talk about McKissick turning around and going back to Washington, which is fine. Because I like Washington as a team.
He has family roots in Washington, so.
And he does have the roots in Washington. That makes it makes total sense. But you're gonna sit there behind Gibson, which is. But I mean, he does have the out of the backfield. So that's the thing. He was like gonna be probably he was targeted for being the guy who can consistently catch out of the backfield. I doubt that because we don't get him, that Bean's next move is going to go and be to trade for Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey. We never know. I'd personally not like it if we did that. But talking about the Bills' run game, right now, we only have a handful of running backs that are still under contract. So if you look at any updates to the roster, it only shows you people will only show you 2 running backs still under contract, Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. But there's another one. Christian Wade. There's another one. And so, again, I don't think that there's really nobody else out there. There's really no other free agent running backs out there that they're going to want to go get. So the conversation now is, are they going to go draft one? Well, they've drafted 2. Singletary's like just rising to above average after last year, the latter half of last year. Zach Moss, who was supposed to be Marshawn Lynch 2.0, is not Marshawn
Not even
Lynch
close.
2.0 at all. So I don't think that they're going to draft one. But like last year was the final year. All right. I'm not even going to talk about this right now. Give me your thoughts on the Bills running back situation, and then I'll go on my soapbox.
Only thing I really disagree with what you said is that Singletary kind of came into above average at the latter half of last season. I really think Singletary has always been good. I think he
Oh yeah,
became.
same.
I think he. Okay, let's say he's always been above average. I would say even like very above average, trending towards good. And I think last year, toward the back end of the year, he pretty much proved to you that he's a good back and can become a great back. I don't think Zach Moss is a bad back, but I'm certainly not going to sit here and defend him. So if he's here, okay, I'm not like complaining. But if he's gone, I'm also not complaining. I do think that Zach Moss has talent. He is a bulldozer. He can he can develop into a pretty good running back. But it's to the point where like if you're going to go that route, which I'd be fine with. Do I want to bring in another talented running back? Absolutely. Would I love Cordell Patterson? 1,000,000%. But
hell yeah.
like if I have Zach Moss behind Devin Singletary, I need him to spell Devin Singletary. I don't need them to split carries. I don't need this to be a two-man job. I don't need Zach Moss in on the goal line. I need him to come in when Devin Singletary is injured or tired. Like that's when he gets his opportunity in his burn. And what he makes out of that, then okay, if he is on a roll, then and he's having a hot game, I don't mind letting him tote the rock for the game, and he goes off for like 130 or something. Hey, fine, leave him in, but don't just be like, all right, this week Devin Singletary start the game, and then the next series you bring in Zach Moss to see what he can do. And I just feel like it completely derails the offense sometimes. You having Zach Moss come in and get in, it derails the offense sometimes. You know what I mean? And I don't want to sit here and bash Zach Moss, but I do think that he is talented and he has some upside. He just needs to be a little more consistent. That's all. Maybe see the field a little better. Watch maybe a little more film. I think he's good, man. I think he'd be fine. But again, I'm not going to sit here and argue with people like, oh no, Zach Moss should be on this team, because I like kind of feel like either way, I'm kind of good. You know what I mean? I think he's a serviceable back. He's probably a top 50 back in the NFL. Which, I mean, there's only 32, starting slots, and then the rest are backups. So, I think that's decent. That's not bad. But I mean, do I think he's a top 32 back? No, not necessarily. And if I'm splitting carries, both of those guys need to be top 32 backs. And I do think Devin Singletary is a top 20, top 15 back. I think he's a top 15 back personally. So
yeah. So all right. So first off, before I go on, Jason, I saw that you had dropped another comment. I don't know if it didn't come through all the way or whatnot, but maybe you can try again, because I'm not sure I understand where you're going with this. But so I'll rephrase what I had said about Singletary, because from day one, I've been a Singletary guy, right? I've been team Singletary. Moss looked really good in the preseason last year. He didn't really perform, like I said. Man was supposed to be Marshawn Lynch 2.0. He has not been Marshawn Lynch 2.0 at all. If anything, I take Moss and I make him like a fullback. But we already have a fullback in Reggie Gilliam. So to answer Jason's question, because this is perfect, I think that they should get rid of him now. I think they should absolutely get rid of him now, because this is perfect for going into where I was going to go to before, which is, and I get it. The man is, didn't start playing NFL football. He hasn't played it his whole life. He's a rugby guy. I get it. But he's now had like 4 years in the NFL. His last season was the final season where he could have a protected practice squad spot, and they still brought him back for this upcoming year. He signed. Christian Wade can run. like a bat out of hell. We saw it in the preseason.
Fast, quick.
He played rugby, so he can take hits. Like, and then you played rugby, but now you're giving him pads. Like, he's gonna take these hits. But he can also catch out of the backfield.
He also had pretty decent field awareness. Like, again, speaks to the rugby. He had decent field awareness, and to see him sit, behind Devin Singletary and Josh Allen, who's our ipso facto running back sometimes, you get to watch that film and learn the game of football. You can only imagine that, sitting down for 2-3 years and watching those guys, his field vision only gets better. So I totally, I'm not mad at the Christian Wade.
He can, but you know what, dude, he can also catch out of the backfield. So my thing is, and this was, I was really excited to have Matt on to talk about this, because obviously I love talking about Christian Wade with anybody, especially Christian Wade, and he engages a lot on Twitter, and so that's something else I appreciate about him off the field. But he can run. He has great situational awareness, like you had just said. He has great hands. He's a strong dude. He's fast. He's small, but he can also catch out of the backfield. We saw him do it. So, I'm not looking for a TJ Yeldon or a JD McKissick or a, Leonard Fournette, who's a free agent option out there. I don't care about those guys. I don't care about those guys. Give me Christian Wade, who you can pay literally dirt cheap money to. Literally dirt cheap money, because he's like 30-something years old. He's only going to have a couple years in the NFL. And to just let him go out, like, for people to say, and this is the thing that irks me, and then I'll stop with this, because this is just a bone that I have to pick. For people to say, like, oh, well, he never played NFL football, or like he didn't grow up playing football, like he's from the UK, he can't do this, blah, blah, blah. F.A. Obata's on the team. He came through in this program. Probably the most famous non-US player who didn't grow up playing football, specifically even at the running back position, LeGarrette Blount.
Didn't know that.
Or no, not LeGarrette Blount, Jay Ajayi.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that. And he was damn good. I
British.
remember he used to torch our defense when he played for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
He ran for
bounced
2
around
a couple times.
What was
the
that?
Eagles too. He ran for 2 Bills a couple times versus the Bills, and he played really well with the Eagles. He almost helped them win the championship. Did he help them win the championship, or was that the year after?
I think
it was somewhere
he retired. But no, man, I'm something just flew in my eye. I'm 100% serious about Christian Wade. Like, I get it before people laugh before. I get it, but like, you have guys at multiple positions: offense, defense, offensive line, running back, defensive end, who are from Germany. They're from the Netherlands or Holland. They're from the UK, that are playing these positions at a starting level. Christian Wade, there's no reason. I have his jersey, so that's like one of the reasons that I'm pushing really hard for it. But like, he is a good guy with a lot of potential, and there's a reason that they keep bringing him back. Even with the protected status, they could have been like, we're not wasting team resources and focus on this guy. But they kept bringing him back and bringing him back and bringing him back, and now he's not protected anymore. And you know what they did? He was one of the first signings that they did in that group. There was like Saran Neal, and then they did like a group of the little guys.
Yep,
they're bringing him back. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say about it. But I made a promise last night that every time this conversation comes up for who are we bringing in for running back, no matter where it is, Facebook, Twitter, podcast, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to stare into your soul and I'm going to go, Christian Wade, and tell me why not. Oh, well, he's from the UK. So why were you, let me pull up the receipts. Why'd you want F.A. Obata last year then, huh? Oh, well, I'm telling you, Christian Wade.
There's no way you can't tell me that Christian Wade couldn't have did what Matt Breida did last year. Like, Matt Breida didn't do very much. So I think Christian Wade could have done just fine on this roster.
Yeah. Jason asking if we have to draft a running back, who do you like? I haven't gotten, and I keep saying I'm gonna do it. I haven't gotten into the film yet, but obviously, like Breece Hall is like the number one kind of consensus guy. But like we've tried drafting running backs is so hard. It's so insanely hard, and they hit with single. It took a little bit for single. Well, it didn't take a little bit. Singletary was good. He had a sophomore slump, and then last year was kind of rocky because the offensive line is built for pass protection, and it was not even that great at that, and not great for the running game. But then also not having a running game coordinator, and then also bringing in Moss, it wasn't conducive. I'm not drafting one. If I'm keeping Zach Moss, and I'm obviously keeping Devin Singletary, just throw Christian Wade in there. Because then Christian Wade is the RB3, can also do special teams. Put him back.
So you're keeping Zach Moss? You cool with that?
If we only use him on like the goal line, or if Devin's injured. But if Devin's injured, I'd actually rather see Christian Wade because he's more similar to that type of that guy than Zach Moss. Yeah. But if being realistic though, they're keeping Singletary. They're probably keeping Moss unless Moss is like a draft day trade. Then I'm just putting Christian Wade in there at RB3. He's been here for like 4 or 5 years. He knows the offense. He's worked with Josh. He's been in the running back room. He knows NFL football. You can't say, if I study a topic for 5 years, what happens? I get a degree that says I know what it is that I'm talking about. I can tell you, because I don't think I can pull it out. I can tell you that's true because I have one. I know what it is that I'm talking, not with sports, but questions on disasters, I can answer. Bachelor's degree in emergency management. But yeah, if you sit there for 4 or 5 years and you learn this stuff, you can't say he doesn't know what he's talking about because he's just a guy that we got on a pathway program. It's BS. Right. I'm not going to accept it.
You've had 3-4 years to sit back and do nothing but study and watch guys on the field do their thing. Like, of course, you're going to soak up and learn some things. So yeah, that's not even a reasonable argument to say that he doesn't know what he's looking at.
No, not at all. All right, moving on. We had mentioned earlier that the Bills had also signed OJ Howard within like the 30 seconds that we got the Von Miller, OJ Howard, Phillips, and that, or Jordan Phillips coming back, and then the Shaq Lawson is like he might be next news. We talked about the OJ Howard signing already, so I wanted to talk about this. I want to see where we're coming at with OJ Howard because I think it's twofold, but I think it's not, because we've been talking about for like 2 off seasons now upgrading the tight end depth, and like we both said, OJ Howard is a TE1 on most teams. Was he brought in because it's already been said he's not replacing Dawson Knox, right? That's clearly not what's happening. Is he coming in as a guy to take over the TE2 position from Tommy Sweeney? Because we saw Sweeney didn't perform that well last year or execute that well last year. Or is this like an and/or situation where we now have an offensive coordinator who really likes the 2 tight end set, and you have Dawson Knox and OJ Howard to run the 2 tight end set?
I think it's an and situation.
Okay.
There were games last year, I think it was like the back end of the season, where Tommy Sweeney was literally a coach's DNP. And I'm sitting up here like, is he injured or something? What's going on? And it was just like, no, we'd rather have Reggie Gilliam play the tight end position. We're not going to have the fullback on the field, etc. And it's like, wow, has Tommy Sweeney really fallen off that much? Do they not believe him anymore? Like, what's going on? And although I think Tommy Sweeney had upside, because I remember when we got Dawson Knox and Tommy Sweeney, it was kind of like a Gabriel Davis and Isaiah Hodgins situation where it was like, which one of these guys is going to step up and be the stud? Obviously, Dawson Knox jumped in, and Gabriel Davis, for that matter, jumped out a little far ahead of the other. But I still believed in Tommy Sweeney, until he went out there looking exactly like rookie Dawson Knox, just ball in his hands, plop right to the ground. I'm like, what's happening right now? Like, and I think he had a really big drop. And it was like a really big game. I feel like it might have been the Patriots Storm game where we had an opportunity for a first down and he just completely dropped the ball.
Yes.
And I was just like, wow, like, okay, that sucks. And so you get a guy like OJ Howard. I think a guy like OJ Howard knows that he has superior athleticism when it comes to the tight end position. And I think knowing that, he's like, all right, well, I have an opportunity here with the Buffalo Bills, one of, if not the best team in the league, with one of, if not the best quarterback in the league. I can come here, play for a year, do my thing. I get to be the backup tight end, where guys aren't necessarily looking for me to make plays. I get to be on a field where you have Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, Dawson Knox, Josh Allen, Isaiah McKenzie, potentially a stud rookie receiver and or running back or whatever, all these playmakers. And you are now like the sixth or seventh option. And not only that, but you could be some team's second or third option. Like, that's how good you are. So, to come to Buffalo and to kind of, sit on the back burner and pick and choose your spots, you could be uber efficient. And if OJ Howard is uber efficient, we already know his upside. We know he has the athleticism. We know he can be a special tight end. He has special talent at the tight end position. So if he can prove that he's efficient, somebody's going to give him a bag next year. So this is a perfect opportunity for OJ Howard to pull a Mitchell Trubisky, where basically you get to sit back and do nothing. Just come back, come in, whenever you get an opportunity, make the most of your opportunity, and next year you getting payday. So this is the perfect place to do that. If you're a decent to a great player and you want a bag next year, come win a chip with the Buffalo Bills and then go elsewhere and get your bag. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like the perfect opportunity to me.
All right, I got nothing to say, man. You said everything that I was gonna say. Literally, it is a I think that's gonna be kind of like the golden standard. Golden standard isn't the best wording that I want to use for that, but it's gonna be the way that teams operate from now on, is bringing in these guys like Mitchell Trubisky, who like literally in his conversations now being in Pittsburgh, when asked about his year sitting in Buffalo, and what he thought about it, he said, "I needed it more than I realized I did." And he learned a lot, and that's extremely, it's a positive indictment of what the Buffalo Bills organization is and was last year, but continues to be. But like, I have nothing else to add. Like, OJ Howard is potentially that guy that you're bringing in for, was it 1 year, $3.5 million, and he's going to go somewhere else. You bring in the next guy. Now we're going to talk about this similar situation again at QB2, but I want to answer Jason's question, and you don't got to apologize. Ask us all the questions you want.
As you want, man.
Literally, and again, I said, just quick story. When I was doing the promo for the show, like on my personal social media, I was like, yo, we're not like those people where you have to do a super chat in order to like get the attention of me. Be involved in the conversation.
Yet, so
okay, but do the just drop be part of the conversation, react to what I'm saying, ask questions. That makes me a better podcaster, and it also, everything we talk about better educates all the fans together at once, because we can all congregate in this area and talk. And so that's one of the big reasons that I love doing this. So definitely, Jason, you don't have to apologize for that. And I'm sorry, I wasn't going in on you in the running back conversation. That was just kind of like pent up frustration for the last like year on the Christian Wade thing. So I apologize for that if it felt like I was going in on you. But you asked thoughts on the cornerback room, and I didn't have corner on here because we have like 8 things that we're going to talk about tonight in total. We just hit the 60-minute mark, even though it feels like we've been doing this for 5 minutes. But
literally, man,
yeah,
it flew by.
Yeah. So just quick thoughts on the corner room. Trey's coming back, but with his injury, you're going to need a more veteran player to come in and step up, unless you're taking a corner at 25. Unless you're taking a corner at 25. That said, Justus knows this. big Dane Jackson guy. And I did on my old show, the Ryan C Show, I did a whole episode where I picked apart Trey White from the beginning of last year till New Orleans when he was injured, the Thanksgiving game. And then Dane Jackson from when he stepped in that game to whatever that point was in the season. And Dane Jackson was, in terms of like the tackle, solo, and combined, actually had more. I think he had more solo tackles than Trey did. And he was just at about combined tackles. Now I would have to go back and look for the end of the year, but I think they were like still fourth, like 3 to 5 games left at the end of the year. So I'm assuming he surpassed where that was. And that was like with only, well, really it was only like 5 games to the end of the season. So like he was only a couple games in. Yeah, oh man, I wish I could remember exactly what it was now because it was actually a really interesting breakdown. But basically, I'm good with Dane Jackson, and I'm one of the few guys, guys or girls that's going to sit there and go, I don't care that he was a 7th round pick. I don't care where you get drafted.
Yeah.
You're in
if
the
you can
NFL.
Perform, you can perform. Yeah.
Yeah. You're in the NFL. I expect you to be a National Football League player. I don't expect you to play like a 7th rounder. I don't expect you to play like a 1st rounder. I expect you to play like
to the best of your abilities. Player.
Yeah. And he not only was as good as Tre'Davious White in pass coverage, he's better than Tre'Davious White in run support. That's just a fact because Tre'Davious does not do run support at all. That's not his thing. He will, and nor should he. But like you can pull up stats, and I'm sure he does a few things here or there. But like the man literally, like when there's a tackle being made, he will jump back out of the way. He doesn't want to, and he doesn't have to. He's the corner. He's the number 1 corner on the team. He doesn't need to. Big Dane Jackson guy for CB2. He's great in both pass and run support, and it's really important to have run support in the backfield. We saw that when Starr was out last year, and you saw Hyde and Poyer coming up, and Levi Wallace, who's no longer with the Bills and signed with Pittsburgh a day or two ago. You saw them coming up more and playing more of an active role in that run defense. So to have a guy like Dane Jackson who can play that role and actively play that role and want to play that role and be good at it as a 7th round pick is really important to me. So I like him at CB2, but if you're going to draft a guy at 25 because Trey is out, or there's the potential that Trey could continue to get injured, or you just don't think that Dane Jackson can be that. I mean, we're not really talking about the draft on this episode, but I'd take a corner at 25. I'd take a corner anywhere in the first 3 rounds, pretty much, I'd say. Dane Jackson's year, 2 years ago? I wanted them to not take a 7th round corner. They did. I'm happy that they did. Again, I love Dane. I think he's better than the 7th round pick moniker that he has. But yeah, I mean, like you're not going to see Taron Johnson come up. He's fantastic. And then he's the best nickel corner in the entire NFL right now. So yeah, I don't know what to tell you about the corner because unless they go with it in the drafts, expect them to kind of maybe go for a free agent guy or an undrafted guy like Levi. Like Levi was an undrafted free agent and they brought him in and look where he is now. So getting paid a crap ton of money in Pittsburgh. But Justus, what do you think?
Ryan stole all of my talking points, so this is going to be
we stole mine before. So
no, it's like all right, we're even now. But yeah. I mean, I was gonna say exact same thing. Like it's a little complicated, right? Because you know for sure you have your CB1. The thing about that is he's banged up right now and it won't be available to you to start the season. So you just lost your CB2 in free agency, who they were clearly comfortable with losing. He only got paid $4 million a year. Not only that, but if you remember, guys, last year they were more than willing to let Levi Wallace walk. He wanted to come back to Buffalo and made it his priority to come back to Buffalo. And they were like, "Oh, okay, if you want to come back for dirt cheap, sure, come back and have a good season." And then obviously this year it seemed like I think $4 million is unbelievable value for Levi Wallace and what he's done. So, but the Bills were like, we're ready to move on. That tells me they truly believe in Dane Jackson, right? That tells me that is basically a foregone conclusion. They think Dane Jackson is perfectly capable of playing CB2, which he was last year. He held it down at the back end of the season. Levi Wallace held down the CB1 job at the back end of the season, so that was pretty good. Now, again, you have your CB1. He's not healthy at the moment. So as of right now, you're basically down to your CB3 playing your CB1. And again, like Ryan alluded to, Teron Johnson is the best nickel in the league. So we kind of want to keep him in that nickel formation. You know what I mean? So I say, all right, I don't know if I want to draft a guy per se, because especially in the first round, because if you look at it, it's like when Tre'Davious White comes back, he's gonna be CB1. I don't care who you sign or who you pick up or who you draft. Tre'Davious White got paid. He's gonna be the CB1. And Dane Jackson is fully capable of being CB2. So now it's like, all right. And again, you're not moving Teron Johnson out of his nickel spot. So it's like, all right, well, now we got this first round draft pick playing the CB4 position, probably barely seeing the field. And it's like, do I want that? Not necessarily, and of course you could, I guess bump Dane Jackson down, but I don't think they're going to, because as I mentioned before, I think they really believe in Dane Jackson, which I do too.
I know I do.
Exactly. So like, why do we do that? You know what I mean? So I say Casey Hayward, Steven Nelson, like some of these guys are available. Go get one of these guys and like, hey, do you want to win a championship? Yes or no? Let's go. Sign this little cheap contract, ball the hell out here in Buffalo. And like I said before, go get your bag next year. You know what I mean? This seems like the perfect opportunity for a situation like that. Or, because my thing is, I really want just one more. We don't need it, but one more elite skill player would just be like the buttercream icing on the cake. You know what I mean? It's like the perfect cake, and now you're just putting the happy, the Bills win Super Bowl writing on the top of it. You know what I mean? Like, go get one more supreme skill player, a Jameson Williams with that 25 pick, a Jahad Doxson, a Breece Hall, in my opinion. I know a lot of people say don't draft a running back in the first round, but I think Breece Hall can play more than running back. I think I like him really. I love him out of the backfield, catching the ball out of the backfield. He makes guys miss. He's super crazy fast. I think he ran like a 4.39 or something nuts. Like, so I'd be cool with that. Drop Zach Moss. You got Singletary, Hall, and Wade, and I'm cool with that. Right.
All right. Thank you. I was about to be like Christian Wade, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm cool. I like Wade. So just to round out, what I was gonna say real quick. I really like the prospect of getting a veteran to come in, to kind of hold down that CB1, CB2 ish position until Tre'Davious can come back. Then this guy is not going to be on the team next year because this is only a 1-year deal. So we really, we could trade him, right before the trade deadline or whatever the case may be, get something in return for him. And handle it that way. Maybe draft a cornerback in the second or third. I want, we'll talk about the draft probably next week or something like that. But I kind of want offensive line depth with the second, third pick. But whatever, we'll see. I also would not be.
Well, we're going to talk about the offensive line here in a minute. So
okay, cool. So I would be cool with getting a day 2. Day 3 guy, not necessarily. I would rather a day 2 guy at the cornerback position and develop him so that we've seen how this team can develop secondary talent. Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, they're obviously the best safety tandem in the NFL. Tre'Davious White, the 27 pick, turned into an absolute stud. Dane Jackson, the 7th round, turns into a semi-stud. Undrafted free agent and Levi Wallace turned into a relative stud. Teron Johnson, who's like a 5th overall pick, turned into a stud. Clearly the secondary can be developed.
The next one on that list is going to be Christian Wade, International Pathways player, turns into a stud at like 32 years old.
I like it.
All right, so just a couple of things really quick before we move on. First, Jason, I appreciate the compliments every Thursday. For as much of them as we can be available for. If you don't know Justus and I yet, we do too much. All right. So every Thursday, the goal is to be here. I'd say 7 p.m. is the time that we're set on right now. to do the Rustbelt report. So by all means, if you got to go, by all means do. But if not, definitely do stay, interact with us. And then every Thursday we'll be back here. But you can follow me on Twitter at RyanCoghill13 and Justus at Justus General. It's both right there on the screen if you need to know how to spell things. A couple of things I do just want to correct. Casey Hayward was signed by the Falcons today, so he is no longer available. Speaking of the Falcons, just a couple of NFL updates. Ian Rappaport just tweeted out that the Panthers have been informed that they're no longer in the running for Deshaun Watson, which leaves New Orleans and Atlanta as the final deal, as the final places. And I can tell you that I think so because Tom Pelissero, I think, tweeted out, or no, was it? No, I think it's one of my other tweets.
Was it Albright?
It might not have. No, it was just right now. I think it was Pelissero said that they pushed something with Matt Ryan back in terms of like when they have to pay him for like whatever some payment. They pushed it back 4 days.
Into a signing bonus. Oh, the deadline.
Yeah. They pushed the deadline back 4 days. So Mike Clay from ESPN put this out. This is just a really cool thing for the Bills edge rushers. Right now, our edge rushers are Von Miller, drafted first round 2011. Gregory Rousseau, first round 2021. Carlos Basham, 2021 second round. AJ Epinesa, 2020 second round. Shaq Lawson, 2016 first round. All of our edge rushers have been drafted in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft. That's crazy.
That's beautiful.
That's absolutely crazy.
The Saints, or not the Saints, the Rams. Remember when they had like Donald and Floyd and all those guys, and every one of their guys was a first rounder? That's awesome.
And so the next, so Joe, thank you for joining us. We're actually talking about the Bills passing game, so we can talk a little bit about Beasley. But the other tweet that I wanted to bring up is, I don't know if you saw this, but PFF betting has Julio Jones at plus 500 to join the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, I was just talking about that on Home Field Advantage last night with Casey Reed and Michael the K-Man Lisman. So that's interesting.
so we can talk. I want to talk about that, but I just thought I'd throw that out there because it was perfect for segue for coming in. But Joe asked about our thoughts on Beasley. We can touch on that real quick if we want to, but I think there's a larger conversation about the passing game that I want to have as a whole. Justus, why don't you go first?
Yeah. Look, first of all, we have Josh Allen as the quarterback, which completely puts us on a different level than any other football team in the NFL, because we have a guy with a top 3 arm, and we also have a guy with top 3 athleticism at the quarterback position in terms of full body traits, in terms of height, size, speed, athleticism, agility. Clearly he has the best hops in the NFL at the quarterback position, so you have that, and you automatically have a premium over everybody else in the NFL because he is the ultimate Swiss Army knife. So with that, you have Stephon Diggs, you have Gabriel Davis, you have Isaiah McKenzie, Dawson Knox, OJ Howard, Devin Singletary is pretty good out of the backfield. So if I'm looking at that, I say, okay, Cole Beasley wasn't super effective last year. Of course, I attribute a lot of that to the offensive line woes, because Josh just simply couldn't get the ball out of his hands, and all they know, hey, they can't block for this kid, so let's just attack Cole Beasley short, double him, and he can't get those short yards, but completions off. And I think that really hurt Cole Beasley. So I think Cole Beasley has a lot left in the tank, and I wish him much success. And also, Bills Mafia, I want to thank you guys. I released a video earlier today. It's already at 60,000 views in like less than 4 or 5 hours. So thank you guys for your support on the Cole Beasley video. But that's why I say I want one more, kind of elite talent skill player, because if we draft a guy like Jameson Williams, let's say he drops to us, or maybe we have to trade up 6 or 7 spots to go get him, I'm perfectly fine with that, because I think he creates a completely different dynamic, right? Cole Beasley was a niche type of wide receiver. He was damn good at what he gave you, but he only gave you so much.
Yeah.
I think having a guy, that can do a lot more really opens up the offense. And
He
you
taught Josh
see
how to
what
actually
happened.
do a short pass.
He saw Josh a lot. He taught Josh
Yeah.
how to be a good quarterback. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So you look at Stephon Diggs in the divisional game. Perfect example. Gabriel Davis goes off for like 4 touchdowns, 217 yards receiving. Like he's going absolutely bonkers. Gabe Davis is amazing. He's not that amazing. Okay. Stephon Diggs is being double teamed, and Gabe Davis is beating his guy one-on-one.
Yeah.
It's the great player effect. So now if you bring in another great player who you're going to have for 4 or 5 years pending a tag, or plus, now who are you going to double? You can't even double Stephon Diggs at that point, because if you do, you're going to have Gabriel Davis and Jameson Williams beating the hell out of your cornerbacks. So
Yeah.
I love Cole Beasley. I do. I love him with all my heart, honestly. Like, I don't care about the vaccination stuff, whatever, bro. Like, live your life.
Yeah.
That's not, I don't care. Like, if you are pro-vax or anti, whatever, this is your life. Do what you want with it, right? So I don't care about any of that. He was a damn good football player. He represented the city of Buffalo well, and I wish him all the best.
So I was gonna bring this up, but I didn't want to bring it up, but I was gonna have to bring it up. A lot of people were talking about how, and even some people like in the political realm, and you know me, I exist in that realm as well, pretty heavily. Uh, not certainly not as much as I used to, but some days, dude, sports Twitter is like, whoa. I sometimes I get better civil discourse talking, politics on the timeline, but a lot of people were talking about how Beasley was released for that reason, and that's not it, right? Excuse me. Beasley requested a trade. Nobody was really interested in trading for him. Reportedly, they had asked him to take a cut, and he just really wasn't interested in it. But at the end of the day, dude, and I said this from the second this conversation started popping up. When they signed McKenzie, it made him expendable. You weren't getting probably more than I'd say in the margins of 5th round pick. It's like
For
5th to
Beasley.
7th round is what you're getting for Beasley.
Yeah.
And teams just weren't even really biting at that because, as you said, or what you alluded to is every position on a football team is deep this year except for quarterback. Wide receiver, especially deep. You can get 1st round talent like the 3rd round. It's ridiculous. So double that with the signing of Isaiah McKenzie, and it made Beasley expendable. And I said that from the beginning. They're either going to keep one, they're either going to let McKenzie, test free agency, and they're going to keep Bees for another year, or they're going to let Bees go, or they'll trade him, and we're going to bring McKenzie back. And as soon as the signing happened, I went, he's done. He's gone. And at that point, obviously, right, he'd already requested the trade. Or, he could go out and seek trades. So it had nothing to do with the politics. Where I will differ from you on this conversation is that as deep as the talent is, I'm fine with like a 3rd round, 4th round wide receiver. I'm not a wide receiver in the 1st or 2nd round guy, because the wide receiver talent that we have on this team is so crazy. And I get it. When it comes to people like Isaiah Hodgins, they're like, well, we don't know what he has. And it's like, all right, well, you don't know what Jameson Williams has at the NFL level. So why do you want to draft him over a guy that's already on your team, knows the offense for 3 years? And I'm not saying you. I'm just saying that, the conversation about, the conversation that pops up on the timeline. So I'm, in fact, if we didn't get a wide receiver in this draft, I'd be fine with it. In all 7 rounds.
Like we have plenty. I'm just saying one more would be over the kill, which is cool.
Yeah, which is cool. It's a good problem to have, but I think we're specifically talking about replacing Beasley, I think we've seen that McKenzie can take on that type of role, and that it was a mistake not having him in that type of role. Isaiah Hodgins can play slot. He's obviously a taller guy. I think he's like 6 foot or 6'1". He's a taller guy. He was the #1 college football. Is he shorter than that?
I think he's taller. I think he's like 6'4". I could be wrong. Give me a second.
I think I know it's like 6 or above. I want to say, unless my eyes are really worse than they
6'3".
are, and I need
6'3".
Okay, so he's 6'3", but he's a fast guy. But he was primarily a red zone threat. I mean, he was the #1 college red zone threat receiver when he was drafted. Before the injury, he was actually like touted as being better than Gabriel Davis in his rookie year. So, or in camp leading up to the season. So, I'm not going to sit here, and again, I'm not going to accept the debate point of, well, we don't know what it is that he brings to the table. You don't know what any of these guys bring to the table. Well, I mean, like, not the same position. And I know you and I have differing opinions on this, but look what's unfolding in Cleveland right now. The debate over whether or not Baker Mayfield, taken #1 in that loaded quarterback class, deserved to really go #1. You know what I mean? Or Trubisky, taken #2, taken in front of Patrick Mahomes. And now he's on his 3rd team. So I'm not, he can do slot. I'd rather that, so he can back McKenzie up. I'd rather that he not compete for that position. Throw the man in there at the red zone. If you're running 2 tight end sets, you can use him in that type of scheme. You can use him as a third pass. Like, you know what I mean? There's so much that you can do.
He's literally the perfect go-to when Gabe Davis needs a blow. Literally the perfect go-to.
Yeah. Or if Gabe Davis is getting double covered, Isaiah Hodgins. You know what I mean? And again, it's a good problem to have. I'm not about some of the conversations that get had. And I don't want to be that guy, but I'm going to use my platform to be like, that's a dumb argument that's being made essentially. So I see that there's a couple more comments. Joe, Davis absolutely stepped up this year. Yeah, he absolutely did. But also in addition to that, it's not like he didn't step up his rookie year either. And that's a comment that's more directed at the team. Because Sanders was absolutely a want, not a need. I think it honestly screwed things up. I mean, Sanders was good and a good, a good consistent vet to bring in, but I think it screwed up a lot of the chemistry on the team. Obviously, it didn't turn into like the bickering Bills or something like that. I think it screwed up a good thing that they had going. What about that wide receiver that we drafted? What wide receiver did we draft last year?
Marquez Stevenson.
Oh, Marquez Stevenson. Yes. That is another one that I have added into the slot conversation. Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Jason, for bringing that back up. I don't know. I'm not for Landry and I'm not for Jones. Like I sincerely don't see. I am in the camp of if they added another wide receiver in the draft, great. Anywhere in like the 3rd round to the 7th, fantastic. If they didn't, I'm not going to be upset, but I don't want us to go sign like Julio Jones or Jarvis Landry. I'm fine with Gabe Davis at wide receiver too. I know some people aren't. I'm fine with Gabe Davis at wide receiver too. Throw in McKenzie or Stevenson or Isaiah Hodgins, Jake Kumaro as another option. Like we have wide receivers coming out of our ears, and we don't have another quarterback. We literally have one rostered on the team, and we're like wide receiver with our $5 that we have left. We're like, let's go get another wide receiver. I don't buy into it. I sincerely don't buy into it. But talking about quarterbacks, we talked about the offensive line because I just want to move on from this because we're at almost the hour and a half mark. We signed Roger Saffold, who I'm a big fan of from his time in Tennessee. But to what you alluded to, the assumption is we're going to go offensive line heavy in the draft. But I sincerely think that offensive line, I don't want to say that there's a problem with this front office in accurately scouting and putting together an offensive line, but it's beginning to seem a lot like that. They can throw a couple of good guys on the line, but like they don't mesh well. You know what I mean? So talk to me a little bit because again, I haven't really looked at anything for the draft, and that's shame on me. But look at, talk to us a little bit about the offensive line and what you think we can do heading into like the draft. Is there anybody else that's out there as well?
Yeah, man. So for me, I agree. I semi agree with you, right? About they as far as like offensive line talent and evaluating, the talent at the offensive line position in college. I don't necessarily think it's a problem with their evaluation process. I think it's more a problem with their developmental process with, Eric Washington, or I'm sorry, not Eric Washington. I totally forgot who the offensive line guy was last year. But in any case, we now have, Cromer back, who was the offensive line coach when we had the top 5, rushing attack in the NFL, etc. And so again, Brandon Bean, they find these great players all over the place at a value. I can't just say, oh wow, they're amazing at scouting talent for defensive line and linebackers and safeties and wide receivers and quarterbacks, but they just suck at evaluating offensive linemen. I don't think that's true. I think it was probably more of an internal coaching position, with that particular skill, or I'm sorry, position. So I would say that, with the new regime coming in, I think that you get, so that's what I mean by, at this point, it's kind of like, round 1 is just going to be best player available, because we don't really have any holes on our team. Like, again, CB2 maybe, but most people feel like Dane Jackson has that locked down. So we don't have any like pertinent holes where it's like, this is, oh my God, we cannot go into next season with this player at this position. Like, we don't have anything like that. You know what I mean? We are blessed enough to be in a position where, we have guys who can come in and do the job. We're just looking to upgrade at this point. So, which is why I say, it would be awesome to get like a nice, elite talent skill player to get in the first round. And I understand the skepticism against that. But then, you get some deep offensive line depth in the second round, third round, whatever the case may be with that. And I feel like you develop them with, the new coach coming in, and that could potentially be an amazing, situation.
All right. I mean, like, again, I'm personally, it's difficult because it was a long year of talking about the offensive line. So like I think I don't think I ever want to talk about the Bills offensive line ever again. I definitely need upgrades. I 100% need upgrades. And this is a front office that has not necessarily it doesn't seem like they've done well when it came to going out and getting guys in free agency specifically. We've traded for good guys. We've drafted some good guys, and I got dragged for critiquing Deion Dawkins. I mean, as bad as I was on Deion Dawkins, there were still some legitimate, critiques and concerns, and I was still getting dragged for those. So I'll admit when I'm wrong on the ones that I was wrong about. But like, you bring in Brian Winters and you push Brian Winters and you push Brian Winters. You trade away Wyatt Teller. And again, hindsight being 2020, we had no idea that he was going to turn into the type of guy that he is now in Cleveland. We had no idea. But I need not just upgrades, but I also need good depth. I need really good depth. And we didn't make any of those moves in free agency. And I get it. The free agent market for offensive line was not that great. I'm just not sure how to feel. You know what I mean? Like I'm not sure how to feel about going out and getting a couple of rookie offensive linemen and being like, you may have to start this season.
I don't think we'll be in that situation. I think we were pretty strong to end the season. I actually think we were really strong to end the season. If you think about it, we had like 3 or 4 games straight where Josh wasn't even sniffed, and then obviously the Patriots playoff game, Josh had literally pitched a perfect game. I think he might have been sacked like once. And then obviously in the Chiefs game, they also played really damn well. And Josh was barely touched in that situation as well. So I think we finished on a strong note, and I think it gave our offensive line a little bit of confidence going forward, knowing, hey, we have guys that we believe in. We have the going from left to right, Dawkins, Saffold, Morse, Dawkins, Bates, Morse, Saffold, Spencer Brown. So that's a strong five right there, right?
Yeah.
It's an above average five, right? And now you bring in some depth, got kids that are rookies who, have upside, but you don't necessarily need to see that upside immediately because you already have people in those positions. So when, Saffold, I think he's got like a 1-year deal, when he's gone next year, if we have a 2nd-round pick who can supplant him, who can develop into a stud offensive lineman, then we have him for 3-4 more years, until we have to pay him, and that's a couple championships, you know what I mean? So yeah, man, the way Brandon Beane just, I don't know, man, he's a magician, and thank God, we found that rotation that actually worked toward the back end of the season. It gave us a lot of us hope, because at this time 6-7 months ago, there was no way in hell you could convince anybody that was a Bills fan that we weren't going offensive lineman in the 1st round.
Right.
We would have told you that they should trade up to go get the top guy, you know what I'm saying, based on what we saw before. So yeah, it's really a beautiful situation to be in,
Yeah. Well, so to Jason's comment before we move on, I promise, guys, it's going to be over soon. An hour and a half is long for us, and I know it's long for you. But to those of you in the comments, and to those of you not in the comments that have been sticking around, because I've been going on all the socials, seeing that there are people watching, we do appreciate that for this first episode of the Rustbelt Report here on the Buffalo fan base, one of a handful of shows that are the official podcasts of the Bills Mafia, which feels amazing to say.
Right? I know, right?
But to Jason's point, we did not lose Ryan Bates, I will say, yet. I know he's a restricted free agent. He is talking to Minnesota, or he was in Minnesota talking to Minnesota. I don't think that we will. We obviously have to match any offer, or we have the opportunity to match any offer. He does have the right of first refusal. But I don't think that he would.
What is right of first refusal?
Right of first refusal is, if I get it correct,
like if the Bills match, he can say, I want to go to the other team.
Give me 5 seconds. If a restricted free agent signs an offer sheet with a new club, his old club can match the offer and retain him, because the qualifying offer entitles it to a right of first refusal on any offer sheet the player signs.
Okay. So that's the Bills' right of first refusal.
Yes.
Gotcha.
All right. That's not, I don't think that's exactly how it was explained earlier today, but I get this from, that is from the Google, and it's on the internet, so it must be true. No. So
believe everything you read on the internet, kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Abraham Lincoln definitely killed vampires. But anyways, and JFK is still alive. I forgot what we were talking about. Oh, Ryan Bates. Ryan Bates. I think he saw how important he became to this offensive line, especially later in the season when he took that upon himself. I can tell you that on the defensive side of the ball, it doesn't look like Zimmer is going to be back, which is unfortunate. But we did just pretty much rework our entire defensive tackle core, so it's a tough loss, but it's a loss, one and the same. But finishing up here, I want to jump down to Shaq Lawson. I wanted to specifically talk about Shaq Lawson because of how different he is compared to everybody else. So if we go back, Shaq was... Oh, that's you. All right. I was like, what is happening?
I'm my little sister is making dinner, because I told you I was supposed to make dinner for my family earlier, but I had to work on the intro. She's making her meal. Sorry.
I do apologize for that. But no, I was like, oh my God, there's a bomb in my apartment. I'm going to die. But no, Shaq Lawson is so different because he's like one of two guys that during the Rex Ryan era went out, brought him in specifically for playing in a 3-4 system. And obviously we've switched back to a 4-3 system. So how does Shaq Lawson fit into this Buffalo Bills defense, both as it is a different system than what he was brought in originally, and the intent was to play in, but also now that he's been gone for so long and it looks a lot different.
Well, first of all, what you have to realize is when Shaq was first here, I believe you say he was a first round. You say he was a first round pick, right?
First round 2016.
Okay, so clearly there were expectations put on him, especially he's the starter, etc. Now he's not the starter. I don't think he's even the first backup, like AJ Epinesa, Groot, Boogie, Von Miller. Like, I don't even think he's the second string. He might be a third rotational piece, so he doesn't come in with like hefty expectations to do this and that. He comes in to be a rotational piece, and he's a great rotational piece. He's a great run defender, long arms. He can contain the edge. And I think to have that as the third string guy, I think that's absolutely phenomenal. I think he can absolutely help this defense out tremendously.
All right. I mean, I don't really have an opinion on him. I just wanted to see what you had to say. If you guys want to talk about Shaq Lawson in the comments, absolutely go ahead and do it. I mean, like I said, he's a guy that I think he can translate well into a 4-3, but I mean, at the time he was this was a guy that the old regime brought in, what?
This is off topic, but Kentucky just got beat. Wow.
Okay. But he's a guy that the old regime brought in. He's a first round pick, so that makes it even more. I'm sure. I mean, he can translate into a 4-3, but he's used to playing in a 3-4. So I mean, we'll see. But like you said, he's gonna be like the third or fourth guy down on that depth chart list. Like he's here to get a ring. He's here to hang out and get a ring and contribute when or if he needs to. That's really what it is. Or he's trade bait. Because honest to God, a lot of these guys that we've signed in free agency or that we're going to draft could just not be here by the time, obviously they're not all going to be here at the 53. They might get picked off the practice squad. They might get traded. We're just looking for assets. So,
absolutely.
Final conversation piece for the night, because my throat's killing me. My voice is killing me. It started when I started screaming because we got Von Miller last night. But QB2. So we lose Mitch Trubisky to Pittsburgh. We lost Jake Fromm earlier in the year to picked off the practice squad by the Giants. Davis Webb signs with the Giants. We have no quarterback. We don't even have a tight end that used to play a quarterback, I don't think, right? Unless did Dawson Knox. I think somebody said that Dawson Knox used to play quarterback. I cannot hear you at all. You're not muted, but I can't hear you.
Sorry, there's a mute feature on my mic. I don't think Dawson Knox did play quarterback, but yeah, let's go ahead and get it back up.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying we should do that at all. But so really interesting to just kind of start off the conversation here. Jake Fromm did get cut from the Giants. He is available. I would like to see him back here. I think in Buffalo he could absolutely learn. I'd like to see him back here, but some of the names that are out there or potentially could be out there are pretty big. Josh Rosen, who is supposed to be, chosen Rosen. That was the Josh we were supposed to have in Buffalo. Potentially could end up here in a Bills uniform. Obviously, we know Mitch Trubisky did not come back, which was my original hope. He's down in Pittsburgh, which was one of the two teams I had him going to. The other one was Indianapolis. But what do you think about the quarterback situation? And I know we're getting into a little bit of the armchair GM's territory, but if you had to pick right now, who's an available quarterback that you would go out and get to put behind Josh Allen?
Yeah, I know that the Bills love to bring back guys that they, previously worked with, which is why we kept having Bobby Hart on our roster. So there's a very, big, possibility that Jake Fromm could come back, but I don't want him to be the backup. If he wants to be the designated quarterback, I'm completely fine with that. It's like the designated survivor, guy who's not in the quarterback room so both of the guys get COVID or something like that. All right, fine. But I don't want him as this QB2. there are too many talented guys out there that could come to Buffalo and do exactly what Mr. Trubisky did. Just sit down, win a champion, or not exactly what Mr. Trubisky did, but they could sit down, win a championship, and get paid next year. Marcus Mariota, I think, is the dream backup quarterback. I think he's supremely talented. Supremely is strong. I think he's really talented. And I think that he can be a really big asset for us. I would love to see Jameis as the backup. I would love to see Fitz Magic as the backup to a lesser degree, because for some reason, anytime he enters the team, the starting quarterback gets injured. Don't want to see that. But there's a ton of, quarterback talent out there that, would work for us. So I'm completely, I think that, like I said, I think that somebody's going to see what happened with Mitch and they're going to take the same exact route. So I'm confident that we'll have a really good, QB2. And we could also draft a guy in the late round.
So I am not on the Fitzpatrick coming back. And I'm a little bit wary about some of the other guys that are out there. But I'm specifically not good with the Fitzpatrick coming back because I have seen too many times, both in Buffalo and in these other teams that I watched. Again, for the people that don't know me, I live in Buffalo, but I went to college for 4 years in Pennsylvania. I lived with nothing but Steelers fans. So I watched as much Steelers football as I did Bills football, if not more, in those 4 years. So also Eagles. I was like watching the Eagles, Pittsburgh, obviously Buffalo, but then, I'm watching these teams that they're playing multiple times a year that are in their division. So like I watch Cleveland a lot, Baltimore too, but I want a type of quarterback that's like similar to the one that we have, and Fitzpatrick isn't that. I need excuse me again. See, this is why we can't go this long. But I want somebody who's going to be like more athletic, can run, like is going to fit behind, is going to be good behind that offensive line. And I don't think Fitzpatrick is that. He's older. He doesn't come from that era of primarily athletic quarterbacks, and he's just not built like that. I'm good with Rosen. I know a lot of people have been talking about Marcus Mariota. I'd be kind of good with Mariota as well. I'm going to throw a name out there, and you and I have disagreed on this on multiple occasions. I think there's a way that this can work. It's more of like a 5 to 7% chance that this occurs, but I'd throw so much money down, you have no idea. I think at the end of the day, Cleveland cuts Baker Mayfield. Because he requested the trade, right? They're out of the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. He requested trade. They deny him. I'm sure he's going to sit out. And I don't really know of like I was talking to my dad last night. And he's like, "Yeah, well, there's QB needy teams out there." I go, I can't think of one. They either have
he's been linked to the Colts like very heavily. So
okay, you know what? The Colts are okay. So the Colts are the only QB. I think they're like literally. See what they just got Drew Lock.
You think they trusted Drew Lock?
I don't know. They traded for him
because they wanted those picks that they was getting for us.
All right, so then I'll add that in here too. I would be good with Buffalo going after Baker Mayfield if he's like a free agent, and we can bring him in here on a Mitch Trubisky deal. Because the first thing I'm doing is buying like a on clearance Baker Mayfield Cleveland jersey, and I'm gonna buy a Bills one. And then, but I like Baker Mayfield. I think he's a better quarterback than many give him credit for. I would also bring in Drew Lock because I think he's a better quarterback than people give him credit for. I agree. I think Drew Lock went to a crappy situation, and same thing. Baker was stuck in a crappy situation. And then last year he destroyed his throwing arm and continued to play, which was a stupid decision. But I get it. I don't agree with it, but I get it. So Unfortunate, and you know what? I'm not even gonna say unfortunately. Drew Lock is probably way less of a harder sell than it is to make the Baker Mayfield thing work. Absolutely, 100%. But if we could get Drew Lock or Baker Mayfield in behind Josh Allen, I'm dropping about as much money on those jerseys as I'm gonna drop on the Sabres goat head stuff when it drops next year. And that's fine. I'll just personally finance this team. I'm essentially the GM. They're using my tax dollars for the stadium. They're going to use my money for my jersey purchases to pay these guys. Like, let's do it. But yeah, man, those are the names that I got. But I'm not against Marcus Mariota. I'm definitely not on the Fitzpatrick train. Like, listen, we can pay for Fitz to get on the jet, or we can fly him out here for playoff games. That's about as far. That's about as close as I need him being to this team in this stadium when it comes to being in the game.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not opposed to that line of thinking. However, I will say that I'm also not opposed to the line of thinking for like a Fitz or a Julio Jones, for those guys to come in 1 year, just do their best to help us win a Super Bowl, So yeah, I think that, they're older, they won't be around much longer, but I think they can spare a year.
Yeah. All right, so just under an hour and 50. This is the Rustbelt Report on the Buffalo fan base. And again, thank you to 26 Shirts, the Buffalo fan base, Bills Mafia for making this possible. I'm super appreciative of it. Justus, again, thank you for the dope intro. If you could actually do me a favor and like send that to me somehow so that I could have it and just put it in my ears at night so I can fall asleep to it, that'd be fantastic. I appreciate that.
Gotcha, bro.
And if you guys didn't get a chance to catch the intro, it's Biggie's Hypnotize instrumental with some awesome shots of the Buffalo Bills and Buffalo. So I'm going to make this man do a cool hockey one, because if you can't tell by what I'm wearing and what's behind me, I'm kind of a big Sabres fan for some reason. They're getting good, though. So I'm gonna have you do a dope hockey one. I promise you, you're gonna make like the best hockey hype video ever someday. But no, so seriously, thank you for bringing me in on this. Thank you for doing all that you've done to make my show and other shows super successful. Absolutely, guys, go follow Justus on Twitter at Justus General. You can follow me on Twitter at Ryan Coghill 13. And if you're here, that means you already follow, like, subscribe, share, and indulge in the content that is Bills Mafia through the Bills or through Buffalo fan base. But also be sure to support the amazing, amazing work that Del Reed does with 26 Shirts on literally a daily and a weekly basis. Shout out to Del. I have some of the 26 Shirt stuff. Definitely not as much of it as I should. I know I'm horrible. But no, thank you guys so much. And next week you can catch myself, Justus, and Matt Perino talking some Buffalo Bills on Thursday, 7 p.m. next week. So definitely go ahead, follow us. We will interact. We will talk all the time. And I want to thank you guys so much for being on the debut, the world premiere, as Justus put it on Twitter, of the Rustbelt Report, the new and improved Rustbelt Report here on the Buffalo fan base. Thank you guys so much, and go Bills.
Go Bills.